Hi guys and welcome back to Read No Grow. If you're new here, my name's Hayden and I give you the best bits from non-fiction and self-development books. So today's review is compare Manifest 7 Steps to Living Your Best Life to Manifest Dive Deeper. And I just wanted to do a comparison because I know sometimes when like a second book gets released, you might be thinking, is it worth it? So let's get stuck in and I can give you my opinion on if I think it's worth getting the second book. Also, if you're wanting an in-depth view of Manifest, please check out this video here. So Manifest Dive Deeper is the navy one. It is also a lovely coffee table book and it is a really nice addition to the orange one as well. This one is about 200 pages long and the text is a bit bigger on this, so it's a wee bit easier to read if you find like kind of smaller print a little bit harder. She basically wrote this book because Manifest, she had given herself a deadline, Roxi Nafousi that is, of 8 weeks, and she didn't realize quite how much work there was going to be in the book. So there were some things that she felt that she wanted to add that she just didn't have quite the time to put in on reflection. So Manifest Dive Deeper is more of an expansion on Manifest. And initially when I was reading it, I wasn't sure if this book was going to be a bit copy and paste of the original Manifest. But when I was reading it, I did feel like I was getting more from this book. Not necessarily more, but just different points from this book compared to the other book. And what I liked about this book is that in every chapter there is an overview of the previous chapters. So if you haven't read the first one, you do get like a good summary of each chapter before you dive deeper into that chapter. The only time I felt like it was a little bit repetitive was in step 1, creating your vision, be clear on your vision, when she goes over the vision board, because I did remember that step from the first one. But if you've not read that book, then this is good because it's going over the vision board steps, so you don't need to have the first one to create a vision board, which is a really important step in manifesting. I didn't feel like I was just kind of rereading stuff. I felt like there was new pieces of information. I also felt that there was more exercises involved at the end of each chapter, which I thought was really good. And they're actually like, spaced, so if you wanted to, you can, there are lines that you can actually read. What I also did like about the book is on this one, Step 2, which is removing fear and doubt, is one of the biggest chapters in the first book, and it is also the biggest chapter in this book too. And it really kind of goes into fear and doubt, which is such an important step in manifesting. And I felt like it was just like a bit more detailed, a bit more expansive in that as well. And she kind of talks on the other section, which is cultivating self-love, which is its own sort of section in itself about toxic positivity. Kind of goes into detail about that, which thought was really interesting. I'm probably a wee bit guilty of toxic positivity sometimes, if I'm honest. Like I try and see like the good in things and try and look on the bright side, but actually reading that made me realize that that can actually be kind of a bad thing, and it's good to kind of validate those feelings and validate other people's feelings if they are feeling a particular emotion. So I did enjoy that section as well, that expansion on that. And also in the removing fear and doubt section, she talks about a full moon ritual, which sounds super hippy dippy and a bit woo woo, but I actually was like, oh, I think I'm kind of bought into that because it's all about kind of like removing negative energy. During the full moon, that's like meant to be like the best time to kind of release that negative energy if you're holding on to it. And she describes like a ritual that you can do, which involves a match and paper and kind of writing things that are like holding you back, lighting a match and like burning them over a bowl, like keeping it very safe and kind of like getting rid of that and letting it go. I was like, oh, is it a bit woo? But then there was a point that, the moon actually influences the oceans and the tides, and if we're made up of 90% water, then maybe the moon does influence our energy and our mood as well. So I'm definitely actually going to try that at some point because I actually thought it might be quite a nice thing to do. And I did something similar to that on Sinead Hegarty's Brave Way retreat, which I'd really recommend if you follow Sinead Hegarty. If you're into wellness, mindfulness, all that sort of thing, she's amazing, and she's got a meditation course which I'd highly recommend. But she did a Brave Way retreat in Ireland, which I went to, and on our last day we wrote things that were holding us back down on a bit of paper, and then we burnt the bit of paper, and it was kind of like almost like a ritual. It felt like almost like a wee bit witchy sort of thing, but it actually was like a really nice kind of spiritual thing to do, like just like a sort of spiritual representation of like letting things go that are holding you back. So I feel like that kind of full moon ritual has that kind of vibe, so I definitely wouldn't rule it out doing it, but it's got like a detailed bit in the book about how to do a full moon ritual if you wanted to do that. So that was more of the pros of the book, so I'll kind of go into more of the cons of the book now. And like I said, it was a little bit repetitive at some bits, but that is just because like she's going over the key points from the main book and going over like steps that you need to do, like the vision board. So apart from that, I didn't really feel like I was just kind of regurgitating all that the same information again. I felt like it was definitely more expansive. So the only other reservation I had was that she does reference some of her meditations that are on her website in the book. For example, in the Remove Fear and Doubt section, she talks about inner child meditations, which are fab. I've done them before with Sinead Hegarty's meditation course, which is really good, but she references it here. And when I went onto the website, you actually do have to pay for it. So it's like £5 if you want to do that meditation, which is fair enough. I get she's a businesswoman, but I was just thinking, you know, if you've bought the book, it'd be quite nice if you maybe had like a free link to maybe at least some of her meditations. So that was my only sort of thing that I had against her reference in her website, was that maybe it would be nice if at least maybe like 1 or 2 of her meditations were free if you kind of bought the book, if there was like a nice little link or something like that. I just thought that would maybe be quite like a nice touch. But overall, I really enjoyed the second book. I listened to them both in Audible, and then I made annotations to help me make these videos as well. And I read them quite soon after each other, but I didn't really feel like I was just repeating the same things over and over again. I did feel like there was more information in the second book. So if you're struggling on which book to get, if you should just go for the second one and just skip the first one, I personally would go for the first one, because I just think it takes you through manifesting in quite an in-depth way. And especially if you're quite new to self-development, I just think it really kind of breaks things down really well in the first one, like kind of sets your foundations for it really well. But what I would suggest is, if you really enjoyed the first one, is to maybe then read a different book. Maybe go and just read like a fiction book and just kind of let what you've read kind of sink in a little bit, and then read the dive deeper. And then that can maybe just reinforce everything you've read from the first one and just kind of help it sink in even further after you've read the second one. So yeah, that's my thoughts on book 2 in comparison to book 1. Let me know what you guys think, if you've read them both, and what your thoughts were. And also let me know if you bought like the decks, like the affirmation cards, or if you've gone to any of her workshops, or if you've done any of her meditations. Like I said, I'm not like reluctant to buy them, but I just thought it'd be like a nice addition to the book. And don't forget to comment below, and I will send someone a copy of Dive Deeper as well. That's great, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.